we'll take a few minutes to like get people in here and get everything out. Go live over here. All right, we are live on Instagram and the Facebooks and the YouTubes and the TikTok. We're live everywhere.
So many things.
All 0 people are watching us now. All right, but also I need to get this pulled up. I need to make this bigger. Maybe. I'm not very good at this. I'm still learning.
It's a process.
It is. It is. Hi, Mark Withers. Nice to see you. All right, we got people coming in. Hello, hello. Hello, TikTok world. All right, so just FYI, we're live with my friend Meg, but you want to probably go watch the YouTube because that's where you can see her amazing face.
Or you can just listen to my voice.
Or you can just listen.
Fine.
Yes, we can just listen. Good morning, Lillian. Good morning. Everybody just pop in, say hi, share the live, make sure you're liking the live and all that. It's just Lorenda Car Medium is the oh shoot, I've got this on. I'm gonna start getting all kinds of stuff going on here. Ooh, do not disturb. Because somebody will call me. There we go. It always happens. If I don't go do not disturb, like no, my phone never rings until
you're focused somewhere else, and then of course.
Right. Good morning, Lucas. We got Lucas over in the Instagram. Got all kinds of people. All right. So good morning. My name's Lorenda Carr, and I'm here with Reverend Meg Wolsiffer. Hi, Amanda. Good morning, Christy. So make sure you're giving us a shout. Make sure you're saying hi. Get us out in the algorithms and all the good things. If you're on TikTok, make sure you're tapping the screen, sharing the live, and all the good things. But we are also, good morning, Candace. So we are going to be chit-chatting about spirit art, Camp Chesterfield, journeys to get to be a reverend, because I'm not doing that. And we might even do some reading. So you got to hang out. You got to hang out and see what's up, see what's going on, see what's happening. So good morning, Meg. How are you?
I am happy to be here this morning. This is a great break from my normal morning. So this is great.
Okay. Nice. Well, yeah, because you work from home for your job. Is that right?
Sometimes a couple days a week I get to work from home, and then I get to make a long drive the rest of the days.
Blech. Nobody likes a long
those
drive.
Muggle jobs, right? Everybody loves a good Muggle job.
Literally nobody likes a Muggle job, but that's fine. All right, so we're working on getting people in here. Make sure we're tapping the screen over here. Let's try to get our likes up and our shares and all that. But also go check out Lorenda Car Medium in YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, and you'll be able to see us live. All right, so Meg, welcome. I am friends with Meg outside of like mediumship stuff. So, but also I trust her. Like she's one of the few mediums that I will be like, listen, I need a reading. Of course, my dogs are now going to lose their minds. I told you if it's not do not disturb, it's like the dogs were sound asleep and now they're like, someone is existing outside. We can't have this.
Oh, I can hear them. That's why mine are in here with me in the seance room.
Got it. Yeah, they're not allowed to come downstairs. And she will carry on for the next 10 minutes. She's like, yeah, keep walking.
There's a squirrel. It's too close to the house.
Right. There are people existing outside. Well, we have construction next door too. So there's a lot of people coming. And then my blind dog will just walk around barking because the other one's barking.
Of course. It's pack mentality.
Yeah. She's like, yeah, what she said. All right. So how are we feeling? Good morning, Paula. So you guys over in the TikTok world, if you want to see my guest, Meg, just go on over to the YouTube Lorenda Car Medium and you'll be able to see her. But otherwise, you can listen in too and keep tapping and sharing the live. All right. So Meg, tell us about you. Tell us a little bit about you and you as a medium, and what your role is in mediumship world there at Camp Chesterfield, and what you like to specialize in, all the things.
She asked me the big question first. Of course you did, right? Just paint the whole picture, Meg.
Well, of course.
Absolutely. I would love to. It's very broad. Who am I? Hi, I'm Meg.
We'll deep dive. It's fine.
I am a reverend. It's still very weird for me to say. It's been a full year since I've been ordained, but it is still very, very strange. And my students know this. It's like, just call me Meg. It's perfectly fine. Let's see. Yes, I was ordained here at the lovely Camp Chesterfield in Chesterfield, Indiana. We're located right between Muncie and Anderson. Cute little 2 stoplight town. Like if you blink, you'll miss us. It's just how it is. Let's see. What do? I do a lot of things. I have a very, very broad background outside of camp. I am a spirit artist, which I'm sure we will talk about in more detail here, but I have loved art since I was a little kid. My mother, bless her heart, she nurtured that in me. I think that she always wanted to be an artist. And so she said, you know what? I'm going to make my kid an artist. And she did. It stuck. So she got me in private lessons when I think I was 12. And I just kind of ran with it. I have done all different styles of art, whether it is painting or drawing. I've done pottery. I love photography. That's one of my passions. But all of those things. And then you get into the real world, right? You go to college and then you get into the real world and it's like, what are you going to do with art? The answer is nothing, right? You wind up not doing anything with art. And so I set all of that aside for most of my life. And then when I found this place, happenstance through Reverend Michelle Euler and the lovely Laura Dingledine, I found Camp Chesterfield. And then I heard about spirit art and I saw our wonderful museum that has all kinds of different spirit art. And I was like, well, wouldn't that be a lovely marriage between what I've always done, and then mediumship? I was like, done, right? And so it's been a lovely roller coaster ride of figuring things out and working with my spirit guides. Fun fact, right, for everybody that's here, Lorenda, you already know this, but we will have spirit guides step in with us that are really interested in those specific things that we want to uncover. So whether that is mediumship or trance work or spirit art or all the other different things, automatic writing, all of those, somebody's going to step in with you and be like, hey, yeah, I want to sit down with you and help you with this. And so I have an awesome guide. His name is Huli. He is an indigenous islander man who he wears lovely hats, paints his face, but he also comes as this really big fluffy bird. All my guides are birds. Fun fact. And he sits with me and he helps me with all of my different art that I do. And it makes me so very happy. So let's see. I've been a medium since 2019. Longer than that, but here at Camp Chesterfield, you go through the program. And so I got that cute little certification badge.
I don't have one of those.
You're a certified medium. And then I think like most people, when COVID was kind of at its height, I kind of stepped away from a lot of things, including my spiritual work. I felt called to really just not do anything and just, make sure I survived through that 2-year span. And then when the world kind of calmed down a little bit, Spirit kicked me in my butt and said, get going. And so then I got my associate minister and then ordained here last year. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. And to Lorenda's point, not everybody is called to be a reverend, and it's not a requirement. You do not have to be ordained. For me, I love spiritualism. It felt like home when I found it as a religion. And what I will say about it is that we don't put, or I can't put we, I personally do not place one religion over any other religion. I value and respect all of them, and I work in all of those different places. And so for me, it's a much larger spectrum for me to work in than just limiting myself to one way. And I love it. It also means that I can serve anybody because I understand their traditions and their backgrounds as well.
Well, I was going to ask you, when you make that transition from studying to be a certified medium to becoming ordained, like what was the difference between your learning, like the things that you had to study, like for instance, like what are some of the classes you had to take and things you had to do?
Yeah, so your mediumship, right? You're working on connecting, and so you're taking meditation classes and chakra
Mhm.
classes and uh, history of modern spiritualism, so you can understand, where we came from in this tradition. And then when you move into walking the path of being a minister, you have to take classes like discernment of call, and that is understanding that yes, I did get that call, right? Spirit picked up the phone and said, hey, you're supposed to be a minister. And understanding what that feels like and what that pull is and why, right? It's a lot of the why questions. Why do you want to do this? Because
Right.
not everybody does, right? Why do you want to serve in that manner? And for me, it was so I can serve everybody. I'm a safe space. I'm a safe space for anybody. It doesn't matter if you believe in absolutely nothing or you believe in aliens, it doesn't matter. All of those are valid for me, and I am here to serve and to help. Um, I also had to take a lot more counseling specific classes. You find in this work that yes, you are connecting with spirit, but at the same time, a lot of it turns into counseling. Somebody just needs to talk to somebody, right? I just need somebody to listen and tell me that I'm not crazy. I think that comes up often. Please tell me I'm not crazy. You're not crazy. It's all valid. And understanding some of those nuances as well. It really is like probably 6 different styles of counseling, and it goes all the way to end of life counseling and how to help people transition to the other side and how to help their families that are still here and the paperwork and documentation and all of that. I can marry people, which I think is fantastic. I'm waiting. Anybody who's on here that is looking for somebody to any tradition, I will study it. I will learn it, and I would love to marry somebody. That was who I'm very excited about that. So
Which I love about you because you're like, game on, let's do
I,
this.
I'm ready. I'm absolutely ready.
Ready.
But what I found really interesting is that, and as an associate minister, which is a step before becoming ordained, I could do funerals, but I couldn't marry people. You cannot marry people until you actually have that ordination piece done, which I was like, okay, so I can send people off to the other side, but I cannot marry them.
Can't marry them. You know what's crazy is I can marry people because I went online and filled out a form and I got a piece of paper that said I could do it.
I love that for you.
Yeah, it's not happening, but like, strange times. Yeah, I literally people are like, "Oh, congratulations." Like I literally did nothing. I typed in my name.
And I got that, I printed off that little piece of paper that says I can do it.
And that's it. That's it. So if I wanted to go marry people, I could. Now, would I have any I would be the one that'd be up to be like, marriage.
Which would be beautiful, I'm sure.
Right,
I'm
right.
sure it would.
Reenactment. Full reenactment of Princess Bride.
Yes.
Or even better, all dressed in purple and be like, dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to get through this thing called life. Yeah, I'd be busting out Prince songs. There would be no. The last thing you need is me marrying anybody.
A little less ceremonial and a little bit more fun.
Correct.
I think that's going to work for people, though.
It might. It might. I didn't realize till I got married that really it's not even about the ceremony. It's literally you go to the courthouse and you sign a piece of paper. That is literally all it takes to be married. It's a contractual agreement.
And the
Yeah.
stress that goes along with having to figure out what you're going to say to that other person. There's a lot that goes behind getting married.
Right.
I mean, come
There
on.
is.
We stress ourselves out and then
Right.
we spend an hour and then it's done. It's like, well, all that, like a year of stress for that. Great.
Awesome. Awesome. And all the money and all the dollars. No.
Oh,
No.
yes.
When really, literally, you just have to like, okay, done, done
Yes.
technically. So anyway, so I completely derailed. So let's go back to just you knowing you were a medium. And um like how did you know? Like honestly, we were just talking about Michelle Euler. Like I didn't consider myself a medium. I was like, no, I'm just doing intuitive things. I'm just like reading cards. She was like, what
I
do
know.
you think
Michelle and I
mediumship
talked about you
is?
quite a bit
Oh, great.
while you were doing that whole,
Yeah,
yes.
trying to figure it out thing.
Like one of us has to have this conversation with Lorenda and just say, listen, put your big boy pants on, you're a medium, go do the work.
Right. And I was willing to do it. I just thought since I didn't see spirits that I wasn't it. That's not how it worked. I had no idea. I was so naive. And it did take work. But what made, like, how did you know that you could do this? Or like, were you one of those people like saw the people when you were younger? Like, how did you know?
Yeah. So I'll take a little sidestep here. So I believe my personal belief is that everybody can do this work,
Me
right?
too.
It's a
Yeah.
choice.
Not everybody should,
Agreed.
but we all can.
Everybody can. It is all about saying yes, agreeing, and then allowing, right? That's what it is. It's making these contracts with our spirit guides. It says, yes, okay, I am ready to work with you. Because they're there whether you know it or not. Like they're already working with you.
Right.
So for me, obviously we can go and look hindsight and I can say, yeah, absolutely. As a kid, I remember gosh, I was probably like 8 or 9 and being in my bedroom and seeing like a shadowy figure right in my doorway, like physically seeing, being freaked out and then hiding under my covers, right? And I can look back now and go, well, it wasn't scary. In fact, I have one of my spirit cards from Hoyt looks exactly like the guy. Like exactly like him. I just made that connection. So thank you, Spirit, for letting me remember that.
They're like, here's your sign.
Right now, he's like, hello, it was me. I'm like, cool. But when we're born, when we're little baby nugs, yes, babies are nugs. We're very open, right? We don't have any preconceptions. We don't have the world sitting on us saying you must do these different things. And so we are 100% open to spirit, which is why when you're rocking a little baby and they're cooing and they're looking off in the corner or they're looking in the other room, that's because grandma's there or their guides or angels, they're there and the baby can see them and interact with them. It's not until we get into those stages where most times most parents will start shutting it down. That's your imaginary friend. We put imaginary around these things. And so that door that is always open starts to close. Right. And then, yeah, we got to school, we got to do all the other things and life happens. And when we're lucky enough, we rediscover spirit, right? If we're lucky enough. And so for me, it was meeting Michelle and Laura. So my wonderful wife, Kim, who was on the show just not too long ago, her and Laura were college friends. They were actually college roommates for a while. And so that's how she met Michelle as well. And
Wait,
so
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah. So
I did not know that.
Yeah, Kim and Laura went to Ball State together. And
I knew they went to Ball State, but I know that's hilarious.
They were roommates. And so I think they were roommates for like maybe 2 years. I don't know. I don't know the length of time, but that's how then Kim also met Michelle, right? And so then they all obviously went their own separate ways because, you know, Kim went and did law enforcement and Laura did her stuff. And so randomly, Laura had reached out for us to get together and have dinner. And I'm like, I don't know these people.
Randomly.
Right. I'm like, I don't know. Okay, fine. And so I went over there and anybody that's on here, and who's studying to be a medium or understands mediumship, you know that it's like a secret, right? A lot of us, we're not like yelling to everybody, oh my God, I'm a medium. Especially if you work in corporate world. It's like, haha, yeah, no, I'm not outing myself. And for us that are gay, it's also like coming out of the closet twice, right? And so you've already experienced that once. Do you really want to do it again? Right. And so Michelle had let something slip. I think she had talked about, I think she let like camp slip, like something about Camp Chesterfield. And I was like, ooh, okay. What is this place called Camp Chesterfield? Please tell me more. And this was when they were in the process of potentially buying the house up here. So right? So they brought us here for the first time, and then I never left. We used to, back in the day, do a weekend where you got to like do this discovery process of, who can I do mediumship? And I think I talked myself out of coming like 5 times. And finally my wife looks at me and she says, you already paid for it. Could you please just go? And so I did. And I was so nervous. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I came up here and they split us out into these groups. I think there were like 10 of us in each group. Daunting. And we had to stand up and give a message. And I'm like, I don't understand what that is. I don't know what that is. And they're like, okay, shut your eyes. I'm like, okay, I can do that. Now open them and, look at somebody and say a color. My students, that I already do this to you. So they're like, this all makes sense, Meg. You had this done to you. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. And then all of this other information started coming out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can do this. And that's all it took. So then I just studied, my little behind off, and here I am.
Wow. Yeah. And see, like people just assume that all mediums they just have always had these things. And we all have them. I believe we're all wired for them. It's a matter, what is our purpose in life? Are we supposed to, or do we come in to be the anti medium? Like what's our role? What did we choose to do in this lifetime? It will determine whether we actually do it or not.
Yes.
And
this is not an easy path to take.
It is not.
People think that, it's just tarot, right? You just do tarot. Well, even if you just do tarot, you're also working with spirit. And fun fact, the more that you work with spirit, with those that have passed and your guides, the more of your own personal junk comes up that you have to face again, and you have to get through it. Yep. That is the most difficult part, because most people will go, no, I'm not dealing with that. And they'll close that door again and set it aside. Mm-hmm. But we're forced to basically look at our reflection over and over again until we truly recognize, understand, and we can move past. And so a lot of people, they walk away because of those reasons, or they just stick with, well, I'm not going to connect with spirit. I'm just going to learn these cards.
Right. I hear that a lot. Like, oh, I'm not psychic. I don't do any of this stuff. I just read the cards. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. You keep on thinking those thoughts that you're having are yours.
Exactly. Yes.
But you know what? In the safety of their world, that is fine. You know what? As long as the message is coming through, or like legit and ethically delivered, cool. But I see it especially like on social media and TikTok, where people go live, and there's on TikTok, it seems to be a lot more in your face, because people can easily go live, and the interaction is a lot easier to do than other platforms. And so I'll see that where people will go, and all of a sudden they'll just disappear. And they'll maybe a few weeks later, or even a couple months later, they'll be like, hey, I was going through some stuff. Sorry, I disappeared. But a lot of times what'll happen is, one, real life. Even though we're mediums, we are still here to be humans. We still have the human experience, period. So we get, we have to have that time to grow. But then also, that the shadows, the things that we're faced with, and things that we think we've dealt with, but then might come up with a client. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait, am I reacting because of my own stuff, or am I conveying spirit? And that discernment is where training is necessary. People are like, but I'm a natural born medium and I don't need training. Spirits trained me. I'm like, but did they? Because you're a little reactionary.
Yes, because spirit can only work with what you've already put into yourself.
Right.
So that's why we study. That's why we always study. I don't care what level you're at. I don't care if you've been doing this for 30 years. You're still studying and growing, because concepts are changing, ideologies are changing. And so you have to continue to study. Otherwise, you don't progress. And if you don't progress, then it goes away.
My favorite thing is when Dr. Mike, who's my doctor, teacher, philosopher guide, will kind of be like, hey, remember that time that I taught you this? And then now you're really comfortable with it. Now I'm going to shake it up.
Oh, yes.
And add another layer. And then you're like,
yeah, it's comfortable. Yeah,
I was so comfortable in that. But then they add a layer to it. And then you can just feel yourself physically, spiritually, mentally growing, like, oh, okay, fine. But it can be stressful because it's out of our box, but also it's kind of exhilarating. Because you're like, okay, so I'm growing. And I think I know I personally, because of classes, because of Reverend Glenda, oh my gosh, she's kicked my butt so many times. I'm learning that it's a gift. It's just like a dance class. If a teacher gives you a correction, that means they care enough and know that you have enough potential to grow you, to help you. So you receive that, even if it doesn't feel comfortable. And if you want to go cry your eyeballs out later because you think you suck, it's the same thing in mediumship and anything,
yes.
no matter what job you're what job you're doing.
See, the dance
So
world taught you that, and having my work critiqued as an artist taught me that, right? It's constructive
yeah.
criticism. Everybody's going to have their own opinion, and it's okay to listen to their opinion and to take the things that can better you and to leave the rest.
Right. Right. Well, that's actually where my transition was going to happen. It's like you're psychic or something.
It's magic.
Yeah. So how do you feel like your art training and you're being an artist first before going in and being a trained medium? How did that translate for you? And I know we're going to talk, I want to talk about how like you used them together, because it was really cool being on the platform and watching you work and do the art. So, and also, yeah, I see, look, I have you in my background. There you are.
It's actually really frustrating. That's how those two things merged into each other, because it was very, very frustrating, because I have that background. I'm like, oh, well, I could just immediately start doing portraits, right? I've had a model stand in front of me, right? So here's the difference, right? I've had a model stand in front of me and not move for 2 hours to allow me to get everything, perspective and all of that. Guess what? Spirit doesn't do that. They don't just, stand there. They're not snapping a picture and handing it to you for you to go, okay, I got this, right? It doesn't work like that. And so I'm working on my portraits, and it's interesting. Let's put it that way. It's going interesting, because it's also not like drawing a caricature, right? It's not somebody who's just quickly going, ta-da, here it is. That's not the kind of person that I am. If it is your uncle that is standing in front of me and I'm drawing them for you, I want you to know that that's who that is, right? When I'm done, I want it to actually look like them. So I'm also still very critical on myself. We're working on that. We're very much so working on that. And I could talk about some of the different things that I do and how they are very much so working on that with me. So, but I do feel like it helps because I understand color. I understand color theory. I understand some of those different nuances. And so that has been very beneficial with my work.
I love that. Well, and yeah, I had another question that completely left my head. Dang it. I gotta learn to write these things down.
It'll come back, I'm sure.
It will. When it's supposed to, it'll come back. All right. So really quick, those of you in the TikTok live, you'll be able to see Meg on my YouTube at Lorenda Carr Medium. If you guys want to pop there, that's fine. Or you can just keep listening over here. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook. But we're talking with Reverend Meg Wolsiffer, spirit artist. She lives at Camp Chesterfield, teacher, ordained. She's all the cool things. And she's just a really good human. And I trust her, and I send people to her for readings, and I get readings from her. So even if she reads me for filth, I'm just saying, hey, remember that time you should be quitting dance?
I trust Lorenda enough to send my mother to go have a reading with her. So
that's true. You did. You did. So, all right, let's talk about spirit art.
Yes.
Now, what's interesting is when Kim was in the chat a couple weeks ago when we were talking about the paranormal stuff, you were in the comments, and we call her Keeper of the Keys. That was a spirit idea, by the way.
If you've seen her key ring, it makes perfect sense.
It does. It does. But she has all the keys to all the things. But we were talking about, I was referring to you, I'm like, oh yeah, in the spirit art, it's all the spirit art. And you're like, no, that's precipitation art. Precipitation art. Is that right? Like rain, precipitation.
Yes.
Okay. And I didn't know that. I didn't know it had its own special name. So I learned something new that day. Thank you. And that's something that the Bang sisters did, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Talk to me about what you do as far as spirit art. And then let's talk about then we can kind of talk about the differences between what that precipitation art is. I feel like you're better equipped to talk about that than me. I'm just it's really cool.
It is really cool.
And you can feel the energy coming off of these paintings. It's insane. But talk about how do you incorporate your art into readings? I've seen you, so I already know the answer to this, but I want to hear you talk about it.
So, yeah. So do a lot of different styles of spirit art. And I think that's the most interesting part to me, is that every time spirit wants me to try something new, I do. And I'm just like, okay, let's see if it'll actually work. And magically it works. I give them a lot of credit, because it's 98% of the time it's not me. And so I'm like, yes, you guys are awesome. So I'll start off with, now, okay, disclaimer. There are a ton of spirit artists in this world, a ton. And everybody's going to call things different names. So I will tell you what I call things, and I will give you what I perceive them as, because that's all I can do, is I can tell you my perspective on things. And so for me, I classify my work in two different realms. I have the spirit art that is basically spirit is doing it, and I'm just the hands. I am literally just the physical creature that is making sure that things are being placed. And then I have spirit inspired. Okay. And so here's the difference, is that when spirit is kind of taking control, and I have visual aids for those that are watching. Okay.
Love it.
So yeah, there we go. So this would be considered one where, yes, spirit made this image, but what they did is they told me where to place color. That's it. And it's not, I'm not placing a ton of color. It's like, this probably has 5 drops on it. And this is what I do when I'm doing public demonstration, because it's easy for me to do. I place the drops, and then I fold it in half, and I put all my lovely little energy in it. And when I open it up, there's always magical pictures in there. And it looks like a face, like how I'm looking at it through the screen. There, it looks like there's a person in here. I will see different things depending on who it's for. So that's just...
Okay, well, hold that up again. Let's see if we can get some audience participation here. So if you are, I wonder if I can do this or not. I'm going to flip my phone around so people on TikTok world can also, I want them to see this, because what I see is different than I think what other people see. Okay. So here we go. So, oh wait, darn it. All right. So what do you all, I want to know what you all see here. If it's like,
I like that puppy dog wearing a hat.
Yep. Puppy dog wearing a hat with a hat and mustache. I love it. I see, my phone's like not wanting to focus. I see a cat in a hat with a bikini on.
With a bikini. Okay, I like that, with the bikini.
What do you all see in the TikTok world? If you could even see, I can't even get it to focus right. Shoot, I can't get it to focus. Y'all just go to my YouTube, and it might be easier than trying to get my phone won't focus on it. An hourglass. Okay, see the cat alien with big jowls wearing a big hat like old cartoon. A Buddha meditating, bunny with a hat. But we get to see now. I love that all these different interpretations of what that could be.
Absolutely. And what's even more interesting is that even if you get closer, right? If I get closer and I move just that top section, you're going to see different things. Like I immediately see it all.
Whoa. That's so cool. All right. So fun. What else do you guys see as you see as she got closer like that? What else do you guys see? Forest leading into a cave. Darth Vader in a hat. Love it. Morning, Cheryl Ann. Infinity art. That's, yep. And so this, like you said, you just put a few dots and then folded it up, and that's what came out.
Yes. And it doesn't matter if I use the same colors on 5 different ones, they will all be vastly different.
Oh, wow. Okay. So what do y'all see in this one? What are we seeing in this? Lotus on the third eye. That's so cool. I love the colors. Let's see what else are we getting here. What are you guys seeing in this second picture? And those of you on TikTok, go to if you want to see these pictures, the spirit art. I was trying to flip it around, but I couldn't get it to focus. Raccoon wearing a dress. Okay, I see that. Now that we've said that, I can't unsee it.
Yep.
Someone in a doorway. Ooh, yeah, okay. Cat with a crown. Gummy bear with a tiara. Circus, my French bulldog dressed as a French clown. That's amazing. Panther on top of crystals. Ooh, now see all these things like just suggesting. It's funny how now I can see where people are seeing that. A little witch with a crown. Love it, love it, love it. And so when you first did that, what was your first impression? What did you see when you
So I won't read these until they're for somebody. I do not do
Ooh,
pre-work. Um,
okay.
I create them. Now it's funny if Kim is anywhere around me while they're sitting out and drawing, she will tell me what she sees in all of them.
Uh-huh.
And to your point, then it's like stop it because that's going to stick in my brain and that's not what I want. So I will make them, and I generally will for this style because it'll be for platform or
Right.
for a festival. I will have a ton of them done, and they'll just be drawing, and I won't look at them until the day of when I. The important part is you always have to sign them, right? And so this
Okay.
that's my signature
Mhm.
because what that does is that stops the energy. Okay, so the signature on there, it stops the energy. So that means that it's done, right? And so once they're dry, I sign all of them. But I won't read them until they're for somebody because I will be impressed with what's important for that person to hear.
Yeah, because last time you did a reading for me, yeah, you just keep them like in a little file box and you're like, "And"
Yeah, spirit chooses them. I don't look
yeah,
through. Spirit chooses which one is for
right.
the individual. And it always is. I mean, it's yes, it's about allowing. Have I mentioned that yet? So that
What? I feel like you might have, but now I don't remember.
right. So that is one version. The one that you have behind you, Lorinda,
Yes.
that's one of my newer styles, right? And I have another one too. Um,
I still have
so
plastic.
this is this it's the same, but it's different from the first one that I showed because this one I am yes, I'm placing color, but then I'm adding water, and from there it's spirit's choice, right? Spirit gets to choose after that point of what they are going to pull into all of these. Um, and for me, not only are they very pretty to look at, and you can
Mhm,
hang them in your house and it wouldn't be a problem, right? People are like, oh, it's
mhm.
a really cool piece of art. But at the same time, there's always something in there. Uh, there's always a message for that person. Um, and so I've recently started to sell these,
Mhm.
even much larger formatted versions. And I had somebody ask me recently, well, do you write the message down before you sell them? And I thought about it, and I've had the intention of doing that, and I'm like, I can't. It doesn't work, right? It
Right.
doesn't work because it is for that person. And so once somebody takes it, I can go, okay, and then I will sit down and I will write it out for you, and I will either email it to you or I will send it to you because it's not going to be impactful in any other method.
Right. Right. Um, yeah, I love my picture because it reminds me of like it feels like there's a phoenix in there, which was very
Mhm.
significant to me. At the time that you did the reading, it was significant. So, um, well, that is awesome. And I
So those are the styles where spirit is doing all the work. I've done them in trance, so like automatic writing,
Mhm.
same sort of thing where I'm just got normally charcoal and I'm just going to town. I've done it in uh, low light where I just have all the different. I have a lot of art supplies, so I'll have everything just laying out in front of me, and I will just whatever I'm inspired to pick up. For the folded ones, I don't choose the colors. I've got them all in a bin, and I just pick wherever spirit impresses. I pick, and then I put the dots down. So I'm not looking for the colors to make sense. So sometimes they're very weird. I will say sometimes they are very very weird. In fact, here I will show you one that's very. This one to me, it's very very weird.
It is weird, but it looks like an alien.
It does look like an alien. And so sometimes they turn out real funky, and I'm like, huh, well,
Huh,
it's for somebody. It's going to make sense.
it will. Yeah.
And so the other style that I personally do is spirit inspired.
Mhm.
And spirit inspired, that would be I paint on feathers. I can't show you any because None of them have been for me, which breaks my heart. I've had to give away all of them.
Oh,
But spirit inspired is where I sit in meditation, whether it's for a circle that I'm doing, or I did it at our last Spirit Fest off of platform, and I meditate, and spirit gives me the pictures, right? They tell me, they're like, okay, well, for you're gonna do, and I will start writing lists. There's gonna be this kind of flower and this, and or there'll be this kind of animal, or this is the scene that you're going to paint, and then I do. So that is really me having to very feather paint, and they're crazy, but I'm always very impressed with them when they're done. But that is where spirit has been telling me to stop, right? And so I've had to listen, because I might be painting something. I'm like, okay, well, that looks like absolute junk, and I will go to try to like fix something, and they're like, no, that's exactly how it's supposed to be. In fact, there was one that I did, and they're like, you're going to paint this beautiful deer on here. I'm like, awesome. I would love to paint a deer on here. And so I started with the outline, in white, and I just, because I do a lot of layers on them. And then I got my browns and my other colors out, and they said, nope. I'm like, what do you mean? No, it's not done. It's just this white outline of it. They're like, no, it's done. And I'm like, but it's not. I'm like, oh my God,
but it's not.
It's not done. And it wasn't. Right. It was done, because the message, I don't generally remember my messages, but this one I did, because I was so concerned about this feather. It was about, for my Harry Potter fans, the Patronus that Snape does. And he says always. And a Patronus is just, right, it's not clear. It's just the outline of the animal. And so it specifically went to somebody whose spouse had passed. It was their person. It was their always and forever love. And she cried, and I cried, and it was great. Mm-hmm. So that's all it takes.
Wow.
That's,
yeah.
So you listen when they tell you to stop.
And that is something that I had to learn, like, in just mediumship in general. Like, I had to learn just to honor what I see, feel, know, like what I'm getting, because even if it doesn't feel like a complete thought, or I can't figure out what it means, I've learned it's Nunya. It's not for you. And it'll make sense when it's supposed to. And you just trust that it makes sense to the person that's receiving it. And it always does.
It's when we try to insert ourselves into it that it gets weird, and the energies feel real off and wonky.
Right. Yeah, I do love your feathers, your spirit art. Because you had done that on platform when at the gala. You had done feathers. I think, remember one of them being
my glitter dress. Yes.
In your glitter dress. Now let's talk about how, when we do platform work, for instance, like, it's not just an intuitive message that you get. You actually do mediumship when you pull a feather, when you pull that spirit art out. Like, you just want to talk about maybe some of your favorite experiences, or like one of the coolest readings you did or something.
So I will say with every, and I will call them tools, because they are. Spirit art is a tool, tarot is a tool, flame messages are a tool. It's all tool. I like to tell everybody that it's your takeaway prize, right? Like, you get a take-home gift with spirit art.
It's the print materials, what I call it.
Right. Yeah. So you can kind of remember things. But for me, it always starts with mediumship. And I don't think I can express that enough, is that it is still about connecting in with somebody's loved one, or with their guides, or somebody who's not here anymore, because it doesn't matter that my guides and I created this. It's not for me, it's for them, which is also why, even if I'm doing feathers and I've got 10 of them, I'm not looking at them. I'm giving the message, and then I'm impressed, and I'm grabbing one, and then I look at it and go, oh my gosh, and then here's what is important about this for you from this person in spirit, because it's not from me, right? It is like that love letter that you wish you could have gotten after they passed. It's what it is. And so then I give that out. And so, like I said, I don't generally remember anything. Why? Because you're raising yourself to your higher mind, right? And then you got to come back down here. I leave it all up there. The only other time that I can truly remember is I did a circle out of town. Actually did 2. And I think that I had to make like 20 feathers. It was a very long process. So I remember that.
Like it's sticking forever.
Ooh, I remember all the feathers that I had to make. Because after I paint them, I then wrap them and I add beads. It's not just done with the feather.
Right.
It's a whole presentation. So I went out of town and I had all of these, and I'm like, well, Spirit, I hope that we did a good job and that, all of these are for somebody. And I remember there was one that I painted, and it was a very large feather, but on there was just this cute little fox, and the fox was sitting like all prim and proper. I'm like, oh my God, I love this one. So secretly I said, I hope this doesn't go to anybody so that I can keep this one for myself. It didn't happen. And there was an older gentleman that I had given him his reading, because in a circle you basically get a small reading, and then this feather. And once I was done, he said to me, I want to tell you how much this means to me. I actually had a fox when I was a kid. Like, we had saved him and had, rehabbed him, but we couldn't release him. And so he was basically my pet for, this journey as a child, and it looks just like him. And so I'm like, oh my God, right? We don't need the affirmations or the feedback, but sometimes when you get it, it is so impactful, because you know that you actually touch somebody so strongly with that information. So yeah.
I love that. And every once in a while, I'm the same way. Like, every once in a while, like, majority of my readings, people are like, I don't know if you remember. I'm like, the answer is no. 99% sure it's a no. But every once in a while, it's like Spirit intentionally wants me to remember certain things.
Yeah.
Because it has to prove to me that I know what I'm doing too, to remind me. But yeah, I love that the Spirit art, you actually have that physical reminder. And then, like, I mean, come on, you can't make that stuff up. Like, you're just at home. Oh, I'll do a fox. Oh, I'll do a deer. But wait, stop there. Like, okay. Like, it's just, I think even as people who are doing this for a living, people who, like, for those like you and I, we're still amazed every time. Every time. It's like we're shocked and surprised every time, even though we do this.
Yeah, and if you are following me on Facebook, I did post pictures of the feathers that I did for our Spirit Fest gala, because I realized that, hey, you don't actually take pictures of any of this stuff, and you don't have anything to show people of what you do. And so I did take pictures of them. So you can see, I think I did 8 of them. That feels correct. They also tell me when to stop, like when to not make any more. They generally will pick out the number of feathers, and I have a lot of feathers, and I will set them aside. If you choose to paint on feathers, or you want to work with feathers, please source them ethically, and know that you legally, disclaimer, legally, you can't go and pick a feather up off the ground and then paint on it and then sell it. It's illegal.
I didn't know that.
Yes, technically you're not supposed to pick them up at all. You're supposed to leave feathers where they are. Birds use feathers for their nests. There's a lot of reasons why. But unless you have a special license to use real feathers, you're not supposed to. You can get in trouble. So all of the things that I do, they are ethically sourced, and they look like hawk feathers. They are not. They are turkey feathers that are painted to look like hawk feathers, and then I paint on them.
I had no idea.
Yes.
I learned something new today.
The research that you do to make sure that you don't get in trouble. That's me.
Right.
So
that goes back to education too, how important it is to know what's happening around you, and to know the laws, and to know all the things. I had no idea.
So switching gears to precipitated art.
Yes.
I'm going to keep her on track, guys. No worries.
Okay.
So
me. Actually, I'm one of my moderators, and TikTok's like, oh, and we're having squirrely day. I'm like, listen, I've been so focused today.
So what happens with Spirit, man. I am all over the place always, because they're like, no, talk about this. No, talk about this. I'm like, in fact, if I'm sitting here and I look back here, it's because they're talking to me, just FYI. Like, I feel like I need to preface that, because otherwise I feel like I look a little crazy.
But honestly, they're used to it with me too.
Yeah,
and they'll call me out. They'll be like, uh-oh, Lorenda's rocking. Or, oh, look at her eyes. They're going shifty. I'm like, no, they are.
I'm
Like,
fine. I'm still here. I promise.
right. They see the calling cards before I see the calling cards. Isn't
Of
that funny?
course.
Anyway, so back to precipitation
Precipitated.
art. Yes.
So precipitated art is where, so I talked about my two styles. It's like neither one of those are true. There are no physical hands that are helping, right? Nobody is no body, right? Body, physical body. They're not taking pencil, crayon, marker. They're not taking paint. They're not utilizing their hands at all. So what we do eventually is I have people that I'm going to start working with to make this happen. I know it's going to.
Going to happen.
It's going to happen. Is that you might still have all of the supplies. So I might still have all my charcoals and paints and pencils and markers. And I would set them, we'll just say, in the middle of my seance room floor. And I would place 2 canvases together. And then I would just sit in meditation. And what spirit does, because they are magical beings and they have so many more abilities than we give them credit for,
Right.
is scientifically what they would do is they would break down the particles of those different mediums, right? So whether it's the oil paint or the markers or the chalk, they would break down those particles into something very, very fine and energetic that they could use. And then they are literally painting the picture. And so if you come here or if you look up the Bang sisters, that's what they did, is that they would just have it all there and they'd set the painting and they would just, I think that's lovely. Just sit back. I'd love to sit back and just let it all happen.
Just let it all happen, right?
And then I always picture it like when you take a piece of like a towel or paper towel and you stick it in water and how it just soaks up.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I picture it. That's how I envision it. I've never seen it physically happen because it's always in the dark.
Right. Well, yeah.
Or it's not like I can't visualize it. That's how I picture it, is like it soaks up from the bottom and then it like creates this beautiful painting on there.
Right.
And so I know people are now like, well, Meg, do you have an example of these things? I do, but it's not the Bang sisters. So there is a pretty well-renowned medium named Hoyt Robinette. And what he does is he takes a basket and he does all of those things and places all that stuff in there. And he puts index cards, blank index cards in the basket, covers them up, basically does all kinds of like platform style mediumship work. Everybody gets messages, all that, opens the lid, and magically.
That's just crazy to me. I've never seen him work, and I keep hearing I need to go see him work, but he hasn't been to camp for a while.
He lives here. He's just very busy, and he's of the older generation now, so he has a lot going on.
Yeah.
But so this card was blank. Okay.
That's just mind-blowing to me.
And now it's no longer blank. And now you might ask, Meg, who is this lady? Well, this lady is my joy guide, because my joy guide is not a small child.
Right.
So this is her. Her name is Purple Wren. That's what we've decided. We can have a conversation on spirit guides some other time. My thoughts on that. But the other cool thing about Hoyt stuff is that then you will also get, don't mind me, I will turn things the right way.
But do you need to really?
All kinds of different people will sign these, right? And so my name is in the middle so that I know it's for me. I did not write my name on this. Okay. Purple Wren's name is right here.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that, who else is on there? Mabel Riffle is on here. Multiple of my guides are on here. My grandfather. So that's my grandfather. He put his name on there. And when you get these and you look at them, you'll notice that all of the handwriting is different. So Mabel wrote my name. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I digress. All of the handwriting is different. And you might say, Meg, how many times have you gone to see him? Too many.
Too many.
Too many times. So this is a slightly different, you can see it's a little bit different, right? So I have 2 people on this one. The gentleman in the bottom, that is also one of my guides. That is my Dr. Teacher. That is Dr. Baldwin.
Mhm.
And then up there at the top is a very, very young, very pretty Mabel Riffle.
Wow. That's cool.
And then same thing, right? There'll be names and all kinds of stuff. And you might have the same names. You might have different names.
Mhm.
This one has different names. This one has my dad on here. This was after he passed. Still several of my guides reminding me that they're still here. Mabel again. So I've maybe 5 or 6 times I've gone.
Wow.
I have several because
I
it's
keep,
very
I keep saying, like, next, if he ever does it again, like, someone needs to give me the memo. Like, I need to know these things. Because Laura and Michelle have been telling me, you've got to go see Hoyt. I'm like, well, but I also know he's got a lot of stuff going on. Because like you said, of the older generation.
of the older generation.
Now Charles was saying, and this is what I was gonna say too, with the Bang sisters, they didn't put any materials out.
Right.
It
was all spirit.
It was all spirit. And it's crazy because there's that one painting in the roses in the museum at Camp Chesterfield. Like, I swear every time I've counted, it's different. Like it's like it's living art. It's not just there.
When I look at it now as instead of as the student, I always look at the number of roses that are in full bloom, and that is what I count because it seems to change for the seasons. From my perspective and how I see it, it changes for the seasons. But yes, the Bank Sister stuff is amazing. Because it literally, if you ever, please come to the museum. And when you look at it, it almost just looks like dust. It's like somebody did this and it created this picture. And as an artist, I can look at it and I can say, okay, yes, I have worked with charcoal and I have worked with chalk before. And where the powder and the substance looks like that's what it is not applied. There's not, because even if I was to create a masterpiece using chalk, you would still see fingerprints. You would still see outlines, right? You would still see shading in there, and you don't see any of that. It doesn't matter how much you blend. It would never look the way that those do. And so as an artist, I can look at those and go, okay, 100% believe that is how that happened.
Right. So Charles said something. Who's Rose Carson? Rose Carson. All right, Charles, you have
Charles,
to
type faster. I wonder to Charles's point where it came from spirit. Yeah, they have to pull it from somewhere, so they can pull it from anything.
Flower. That's the flower lady's name.
Oh, gotcha. They could pull pigment from your hair. They could pull pigment from what you're wearing. They could pull from the air, right? And from the vibrations that are like a prism, right? That are coming through from the sun. So spirit can quite literally use anything. I teach spirit art and we do spirit art weekends here. And we did what I call spirit rubbings. And you take like hard canvases, like the real thin ones, and you basically just go rub them on nature.
All right.
And so nature is providing the pigments and the colors and providing the images that are coming forward. And if I step away for 2 seconds, I can show you one. Hold on.
Absolutely. We'll talk amongst ourselves. But also in the chat, we've got Reverend Charles Clipadlo. He's also a Camp Chesterfield resident. And I got to be on the platform with him as well.
So this one's a little bit harder to see. But if you look closely, you can see the face of a Native American right here.
Oh, wow. Yep.
And so he came through. And when I look at the whole thing, it's like a giant tree with this face of this Native American inside of it. And this was from rubbing on several trees here on grounds, some of our beautiful plants that we have. I did not pluck anything. I did not murder anything. I literally just said, here, please add your energy to this. And it did. And we have a sacred fire pit. And so I also went into our sacred fire pit. So several people got some very interesting things when we did this. very, very interesting.
That'd be so cool. I always want to take classes, but then I'm like, oh, I own a dance studio. I'm at the studio all the time.
It's that time thing, right? Like,
It's not enough minutes in the day. I
it's
do anytime I can, though. Anytime I can get up there and take, if there's workshops and I'm like, Matt's like, oh, are you free this weekend? I'm like, no, Camp Chesterfield. He's just used to it at this point.
or plus ones, they get used to it. Or you move here, hint, hint, and
Yeah.
then they're stuck with you and they have to figure it out.
Yeah. The only way I could convince him to get a house up there is if I figure out a way to, if it makes him money or gives him a tax deduction big enough to offset things. Like that's how he thinks. He doesn't think about, oh, but I really want to live there because I really would benefit. No, no. And how much money could he make when we move? Like that's just where it's so
I
no.
mean, downsizing alone is going to save you. Just saying.
I know. Well, yeah, I cannot picture myself living in Chesterfield, Indiana. I live close enough that I can go visit. That's it.
I understand.
But I do love the grounds. I love the grounds. Rent my house. Yeah, no. Well, you can't do that on Camp Chesterfield. You can't just rent the house. You have to apply to live there. You can't just like move in.
There's
Like, oh, I
rules.
love this house.
Think of it like a
So weird.
large HOA,
It
only with a lot more rules.
Yeah.
Because in all honesty, to be here, the whole point of living at Camp Chesterfield is to be of service.
Yes.
So to be of service here as a spiritualist community, that means being able to work the platform, right? Being able to be a healer, being able to be a metaphysician. And so it's, it's like living at a church. It really is.
Right.
It's the weirdest thing, but
Now, I've had really interesting discussions with people who are just like, they were like, well, why would I study spiritualism? It's just another religion. Like, what is your response when somebody says something along those lines?
Why study spiritualism? Well, first off, you don't have to be a spiritualist to be a medium.
Right.
It is literally just looking at it through the lens of religion. And for me, spiritualism, it really gives me peace. Now, I literally just did a sermon on this. So if y'all listen to that, you're going to hear a little bit of similar stuff. So I grew up in the church, right? As a Lutheran. Went through all those things. Confirmation, all that fun stuff. And when we're younger, and that's what our parents want us to do, it made sense. And as I got older and then I went into the military, that didn't make sense anymore. And I needed something more robust. Okay. And so I found the non-denominational church, which is what the military is. I'm like, ooh, this feels more encompassing, right? It's less negativity and it's more positive. And I'm like, oh, I love this so much. Well, that doesn't really exist, or at least I couldn't find anything that existed that was remotely close outside of the military. And then I was drawn into Taoism, and I found a lot of inspiration and truth in Taoism, and knowing that we're all connected, from little bugs to people, like we're all connected. There's a connection there. And then I, moved into Buddhism, and so coming here and understanding that it's not just the one thing, that it's all the things. Right? That's what made me feel at peace, and knowing, okay, well, meditation fits in all of these different spectrums. And then as the religion side of it, as why did I study spiritualism? It removed the fear of death. When I first started studying, I started studying in 2016, and my dad passed away in 2017. And I tell people that had I not been studying spiritualism, and I'm not talking about studying mediumship, I was literally a little baby figuring things out at that point. Yeah, little tiny nugget. That I would not have been able to handle my father passing. I would not have been able to say on the phone where he wasn't verbal anymore. I wouldn't have been able to talk to him and tell him that it was okay for him to go, because I could still talk to him after he passed, that he could still come and visit me. And so removing that fear. And also, to everybody that's listening or watching, I don't care what religion you are. I will welcome you full-heartedly. So I'm only talking about me. One of the biggest things and one of the best parts that lifted so much burden off of me was also removing the fear of going to hell. I don't believe in hell any longer. I don't believe in that, that I do bad things and this is where I go. That's a whole other conversation. Now, don't anybody like jump off here and talk about, well, what about all of these horrible mass murderers and all of this? Different conversation.
Whole different conversation.
That
might be a whole other live.
That's a whole other one. It's like, here's your little 2 cents. It'll make you think about it. Is that when you pass, you have to go to therapy. How long you have to stay there depends on your life and the choices that you made. Okay. So we all have to go through therapy. Length of time is up to your decisions that you made. Because at the end of the day, we're not physical people. We're cute little spiritualist balls of energy, right? That's what goes on. So, also, it doesn't hurt that being a medium and being a minister and being a medium as part of my practice, my religious practice, I have protections. I cannot go to jail for being a fortune teller.
Which is also why I got that piece of paper. That is why I got the piece of paper that says I'm ordained.
Yeah, this work is part of my religion. It's part of what I give back. And so that is a protection, because in the state of Indiana, it is still illegal and you can go to jail.
Yeah. So do y'all know that? So yeah, which is why there's been a whole discussion in TikTok world among a lot of practitioners, like, hey, what are we going to do if our state says you're no longer protected? And they want to go back on those, because we seem to be going back to laws from like the 1700s,
right?
Lately in 1800s. What's going to happen to those of us who are fortune tellers? Because actually there was a story, I want to say it's about a year ago. I can't remember what state it is. I was just talking about this, that there was a gal who in her little town opened a metaphysical store. She had like crystals and cards and stuff like that. And the day she opened her doors, the sheriff shows up and says, you can't do this. It's illegal. Fortune telling is illegal. She's like, I'm not doing any fortune telling, but the powers that be were trying to shut her down. I think luckily she was able to get out, like she was able to resolve it, but they were going to come for her because she was fortune telling in their little town. And it was literally on the books and illegal. So yes, we're going to have to, that actually gave me consideration to go ahead and actually enroll in the program at Camp Chesterfield to get ordained.
Well, and even if you aren't ordained, even if you just come here and you go through the process to become a certified medium, you are still protected under the church because of that, because it is through the Indiana Association of Spiritualists. So that's where my papers come from, which then that is still an umbrella of protection. And so that's what I tell my students. So even if you don't want to be ordained, right, get the little piece of paper, because all it is giving you just a little bit more protection over your practice. Now, it doesn't mean that you should then go out into the world and make very bad decisions or plant seeds of doubt or fear inside of anybody during readings, because that's not good. Okay. That's not ethical. We still are very ethical people. And so hope, my goal is always to provide hope and upliftment. And I say that people will leave better than how they came. That's always my goal.
And that's what it should be, that you want to leave people better than how you found them. And they feel hopeful somehow, or feel that, because our job as mediums, we say this over and over again, is to prove the continuity of life. That we're not here for dog and pony show. We're not here for the magic tricks, just to prove that spirit is alive and well on the other side.
Yes.
And that they're around us all the time. Never knew there were laws against fortune telling. Yes, there are. And people have lost their businesses in the past because of it. And I think I think that people have no idea about how things are going to shift soon without going there. I feel like there's a lot that's going to be happening that I think, especially in this practice, we have to be aware of, and we need to be very knowledgeable.
So for everybody here, next year is a 9-year. Globally, it's a 9-year, right?
I just made a video on that.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
I haven't posted it yet, but yeah, I just did a video on
2025
that.
is a 9-year, and 9 years are all about some deep cleaning and some heavy lifting before
Mhm.
new beginnings and new changes can happen. So there is going to be a lot of changes that come through. And so hold on tight, right? Pull your boots up, tie them tight, and just, keep moving forward. It doesn't mean that you have to change who you are. It just means that you might have to take some different considerations. So if you do this work, it just means that you might need to take some different avenues, right? To make sure that you are always protected in what you're doing, because the worst thing that we can do is just throw our hands in the air and say, fine, I'm not going to be of service to anybody anymore. I'm just going to go sit in my house.
Right.
I will always be a minister. I will always be a medium. The way in which I approach it may be different depending on the climate of the world that we live in.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, we are all little beacons of light.
Yeah. I do feel like Spirit's calling a number of people, yes, myself included, to rest up.
Yes.
To rest up right now. Recharge the batteries, because there's going to be a lot of energetic shift. And there's been people, it's not just me just saying this, but a lot of practitioners have been talking about, they feel, especially people who are very clairsentient, like they physically feel the change. They feel the vibrational change. And I just keep saying, well, they wrote a whole song about it. They did a whole musical about it. The Age of Aquarius.
And that's where we're moving.
We are. There's going to be a lot of shifting and changing. And I think that's why we're seeing more and more, especially when you got your TikTok platform, you got social media, where we may have thought like Camp Chesterfield. That's not true. Camp Chesterfield's out. People have come to Camp Chesterfield organically, like for years and years, since its inception. But like, I feel like people are no longer feeling alone, because they're realizing, oh, a bunch of us can do this. Mm-hmm. I wonder why there's a bunch of us that can do this.
Oh, there was a mass calling that happened. It's all good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're all light beings, and we're all light workers. It doesn't mean we don't have to do the other kind of work as well. But when you're standing in the light, you figure out how to be comfortable with change, because look into natural law, folks.
Love natural law, right?
Yeah. Everything progresses, and nothing moves backwards. Even if it feels like it moves backwards, it's still progressing. It just may not be progressing in the way that you have been hoping that it would. Okay. And so it's just important to remember that just because we progress in one way doesn't mean that things aren't going to continue to shift and progress. Okay. It just means that it might feel a little crunchy. I don't particularly enjoy change. I worked in the newspaper industry for 13 years, and it was change every day, and it was a lot. And so you just keep rolling with it. Yeah. Just keep rolling.
I think you get to a certain age, you're just like, I feel like I need to get out of the hustle. Like, you feel like it's a constant change is change, because in order to adapt and to understand, you have to educate yourself. You have to change. You have to adapt. You've got to and stay with the times. And that's why some people are just like, nah.
So, Lorenda, how many books do you have based around anything metaphysical, spiritual? How many books do you have that you have not opened up yet?
I've opened them.
Actively sat down and read them.
Oh, so many. But here's what I've noticed. I've tried to sit down and read, like I'll try to read from the beginning. A lot of times Spirit will go, oh God, you're not going to finish this. Go to page such and such. And like, they'll take me to certain things that I need to know. And then I'm like, okay. And then they'll bring me back to that book later. So again, part of that process is trusting that Spirit told me to do it. Fine, I'll spend the money to get it. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Why are you having me get this? They're just like, you're going to need bits and pieces. It's information. So I have a lot that I don't read. Every once in a while before a class, a Spirit will say, because I've got a natural law book, the it's one that Glenda uses all the time. Shoot,
Is it the Kabbalion?
the river flow. Hold on, where is it? It might be upstairs. Oh, River of Life. It's all the natural laws, and we use it in class a lot. We also have Mysteries of the Christos that we'll deep dive in Glenda's class. I don't need to read all that. She'll be like, nah, just get, okay, you have the book, read this section, read this section. But yeah, beginning to end, very few will I do that. I just know that they're good resources that Spirit wants me to have. So I listen. It's part of me, part of me trusting. But why are you asking?
Well, because if you're impressed to purchase a book, you should.
Mm-hmm.
And you might not pick it up for years. Right? But the moment that it's right, and that's where this is all circling back to, is the moment that it's right and it's time for you to learn that knowledge, it'll be there at your fingertips for you to learn that knowledge.
Right. Right. That happened to me with a deck of tarot cards, actually. Spirit, I just happened to see it. I'm like, oh my God, I have to have those. It's like a fairy deck. And then I bought them and I could not connect to them to save my life. Also,
I know, I'm watching it. I'm enjoying.
It's just like, okay, I guess we're turned on now. Okay. And I tried connecting to them. I tried getting used to them and I was like, okay. When I just put them away, I forgot they existed. And then all of a sudden I was cleaning out my office. I had like 2 years cleaning out my office and during COVID. And then I find them. I'm like, oh, I forgot I had these. These are so pretty. And I'm like, oh, I really like these. And then all of a sudden I'm connecting to them and I'm getting to know them. And then within like a couple of weeks, I'm in Reverend Glenda's class. I hadn't been taking her class very long. I was still learning to meet my guides. And somebody described, who was it? Was that D. Roberts? D. Reed? I forget. Somebody that I'm still in touch with, but described a card perfectly from that deck. And she's like, this is your master teacher. And she's holding a star. It was the star card. Of course it was. And so that's one of my master teachers that I work with often is Star. But had I not gotten that deck, and then I used him for a while, but then after that, it was like I wasn't connected to him anymore. It's like they just had me buy the deck so I could have that one card. So in that right timing, I could have that card because it described her to a T. Isn't that crazy?
I love that. I wish you would still have that card. You should just have that one card sitting out.
I usually, I used to. I don't know where it is now. Oh, I think it's upstairs in my office, sitting in my office because I have that one and I have Carrot one sitting down here because she's also a goddess that I work with. But yeah, so yeah, I like to keep the little star cards when I can. I love it when they pop out too. So what are your thoughts? We have 40 minutes left. What are your thoughts on maybe doing some readings today?
Well, I'd love to know if anybody had any questions first.
Yeah, we're getting there. Yeah. Questions, not for readings, but questions for Meg. Those of you in the TikTok chat, thanks all for joining. Well, thanks for all the likes too. We're at 10,000 likes. So if you guys are, if you'd like to see what's happening, you can go to my YouTube page or my Facebook page, Lorenda Carr Medium. Or you can just keep listening. That's fine. Keep tapping and sharing and all the good things. But we've got Reverend Meg Wolsiffer from Camp Chesterfield. You guys know I talk about camp all the time. What questions do you guys have? We have a number of your students here. So Amanda's in here. I thought somebody else was in here that is one of your students.
Oh, there's several of them.
Okay. I was like, I thought I'd seen. Is there any other reason why we accumulate the books? Why do you think? Oh, Mark is a student. Very cool. Welcome, Mark.
So as Lorenda was talking about to the question of why do we accumulate books, she was talking about that deck that didn't really resonate with her. Well, I find that I might purchase books or tarot decks or stones or a myriad of different things for myself. And I might read them or I might use them once. And then I realize that it's not for me. And sure enough, it might be 2 years later that right person comes in. It could be for a reading, it could be a student. And I'm like, oh, Spirit says, and I'm like, but I don't want to. Spirit says, this is for you. And I give a lot of things away. When it comes to books, though, I do find that I do that because there is somebody is quite literally searching for something, and for some reason I have the book, and I'm not the one, unless it's one of my more rare books. I'm not the one that's going to say, here's the book, go find it for yourself. I might loan it to them if I know them, or if I don't know them and Spirit's like, just do it, Meg. I'm like, fine. And I will give that. I'm really mad about one of my astrology books because I can't find it anymore. And I'm like, I really wish there's something in there that I was supposed to look up. And I'm like, I can't because I gave it away. But
oh no.
But things are things, and it all comes back, right? It all comes back as energy. So it's not that big of a deal. But for the person that asked about the accumulating of books, I want to say for you specifically, if you have a whole lot of books that you have not read, it's timing based for you. It is you have several subjects that you are really, really interested in learning more about, but it's not currently the moment for you to open those books. So don't get rid of them. But I'm also being told you need to organize your books into subjects so that you have them at easy access. But it just means that timing will come forward, that there is something important, and listen for it. Or if you aren't a medium and you're not talking to your people, when you are impressed to even, there was that one book that had that red cover, go find that book, because there's something in there. And you could literally just flip through it, and wherever you stop, read that page, because there's something in there that's very, very important for you to have.
That happens to me all the time, especially with like the natural law book, or like there's a couple of them like, well, Dr. Mike, what are we doing today in class? And they'll be like, oh, grab that book. And it's the same thing. I just flip it up and go, oh, okay, cool. It's a new subject for the day. It does happen. And then Charles asked, what are your recommendations for someone who wants to start doing spirit art?
Charles isn't allowed to ask questions.
So for reference, anybody who's watching, like Charles was also on the planet. He's ordained.
He's my neighbor.
He's the neighbor. And actually he's on, you probably can't see it because of my thing. I have the banner from the gala up in here. So Charles is up here on my thing. Meg is up here as well. So here we won't block with my microphone is cool and all. However,
it is very cool. I like that it's purple.
Me too.
So if you want to get into spirit art, first off, I will say that it is not a requirement to have any sort of artistic background. You have to know anything about art. I'm just one of those people that does. How did I start with spirit art? Let me tell you that story first. So there was a wonderful, wonderful woman here, and I hope some of you got to meet her. Her name was Reverend Pat Kennedy. She was short and a spitfire, and you really could not say no to her. She would just grab you and be like, come here. The first time that I was here for a week long, because we do a full week of classes. It's very intensive, but it's a lot of fun. You meet so many people.
People come from all over the country to do it.
All over the place. On Fridays, we do a student fair. It's basically like a psychic fair with little mini readings, but the students can do anything that they want to do, right? Anything. You do flame messages. Reverend Juana, who used to live in this house, she did crummy messages where she literally would toast a piece of toast and then dump out the crumbs and read the crumbs, right? So whatever you were inspired to do.
That's amazing. Crummy messages.
Crummy messages. I know. She's something else. But so Reverend Pat, she literally grabbed my hand and took me over to the Maxon, which is where we do it. And she said, now listen, here's all the supplies you need. You're doing spirit art for the psychic fair. I'm like, I'm sorry, what?
What?
I'm like, I don't know how to do that, right? I've never done that before. And this is my first time. I didn't want to do anything. She's like, nope. So she had paper and a whole bunch of different paints. And I'm like, okay, which is where these started.
Right.
Where they started. And how they have evolved quite a bit from where they started. But so that's how I started. And then I took a class here that was taught by Reverend Jeremy Kaler. He was doing a spirit art class. I took that class. And from there, I worked one-on-one with him for a while, where he would quite literally send me a spirit, and then I would draw. I would draw them. I would draw something that represented them. And so that was how that connection was built. And so if you want to start learning how to do spirit art, if you can find a teacher, absolutely. Everything is always great if you can find somebody who can teach you, or because there's not one way to do it, but who can at least inspire you and give you how to use some of the tools at your disposal. But even if you just want to work with, if you've got a circle of friends that you sit with, or just other like-minded folks, ask them to send you somebody intentionally, right? You can't just be like, oh, sure, yeah, my grandma's going to come see you. No. And they shouldn't tell you who it is either, because that's part of it, right? You're going to pick up that vibration. But you'd say, hey, at 5 o'clock tonight, could you please intentionally ask one of your people to come and see me and see what I can pick up, and I will draw something, or I will paint something, or whatever I'm impressed with. That's what I will create. And then of course you have to call them and then show them the pictures and all of that stuff. But that's one way to absolutely do it. Another way is to just sit in meditation and see what you're inspired with. Spirit's not going to lead you wrong.
They don't.
They're not going to lead you wrong. The most important thing that you can do is just try. Absolutely, just try.
I always say it's you want to embrace the Empress energy, the Empress in the tarot, because that's creation. It's art. It's letting things flow through. It's bringing something from nothing into the world and creating something. And so embrace the Empress energy.
I feel like I'm going to say her name wrong, but I really want to answer her question. Is it Yesina?
Oh, it's Yessie.
Yessie.
Yep, just go by Yessie.
Beautiful. It's a beautiful name.
She's in development.
Oh, I love that. I love you are a photograph that is currently being processed. So our question was it intimidating going to Camp Chesterfield? The first time, as a student, 100%. Hands down. First time coming here, no. I went to a service. If you've not come here, the moment you come underground, it's like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful, right? The energy is just so inviting. You just want to walk everywhere, and you can. The first time coming as a student, I was petrified. My first development class, I was petrified. It was in this house where I live. It was in this room. This was my first development class. I think my palms were massively sweaty, and I was shaking. I'm like, please don't call on me. Please don't call on me. But you have to get past that, right? You have to get past those fears. And hopefully everybody, yes, he has a teacher, but for those that want to develop, find a teacher that is going to inspire you and empower you to be your own person and to be the medium or the psychic or the practitioner that you're supposed to be. It's not about trying to make cookie cutter people, right? I don't have a little gingerbread men press that I'm trying to make everybody into. My job as a teacher is to find that spark inside of you and nurture it into a flame that then takes you away from me so that you can go do your work. I'm not trying to hold on to you and just, some of you I am, some of my students, you can never leave me. It's not going to happen because they're also my friends and you're stuck with me forever. But my goal is to empower them so that they can go out into the world and be that next light that can then empower others and continues that process. So yes, it was intimidating, but please come. Especially if you come to a weekend of classes or a week long, there's so many new people and everybody's so welcoming and loving. The nerves are us and us wanting to be the best that we can be, right? Yeah.
Right. That is true. That is true. Let's see, there was another, and Angel asked, are there any programs for children to help them not be fearful? And this, this is definitely not my wheelhouse. I'm like, listen, I've got kids in dance class. That's enough. I'm done with kids.
So here we used to have what was called the Lyceum, and it was for kids, and that's who it was tailored for. We don't currently have that anymore, but I I do feel that that is something that is missing. And I used to have a younger person in my development class who had parent permission to be here with the adults, and she was absolutely lovely. We miss her dearly. She moved away, and so she's not part of the class currently. But that is something that has been placed on my radar of something to recreate, is something specifically for kids, where it's not about them becoming mediums. It is quite literally helping them to understand. And unfortunately, the world that we live in, the kids go through so much more than I went through when I was a kid. I mean, it's a lot.
You couldn't pay me enough to be a kid in these times. There's just no, thank you. There's just too much pressure. There's too much
I bought me a
information.
bulletproof insert for their backpack when they were in school. I mean, seriously, like that's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Lorenda, I want to ask you this question that I see from Tara. Do you read your family members?
I won't read them for mediumistically. I'll pull cards. Like my mom's always like, hey, pull cards. I usually send them to people like you. I send my mom to you, to Michelle. Like I'll send relatives to other mediums if they want in-depth readings. Now, what's interesting though is like when I did my show me a sign back in October, my parents came, my mom and my stepdad. Now my stepdad, I know his immediate family, but they've all passed. Like it's just him and his niece and nephew left. Everyone else, like I don't really know much about their family history. And what was interesting, and you know this feeling when you're on the platform and nobody can take anything and it's crickets, but you're getting names, you're getting like what they look like, you're getting all the stuff. But it was my stepdad's grandfather that I didn't know existed, like down to the name. And he tells me afterwards, by the way.
Of course.
Yeah. But he'd never seen me in action. So I've read for people, and I've learned through my friend Carrie Koss when I did a gallery event with her in Portland, watching her read and like understand that she knew. She's like, listen, I know I've got a spirit here. I don't just make this stuff up. And she's like, well, someone's just not taking it or not putting two and two together, or for whatever reason they're afraid. So she delivers the message and moves on. So I did that. I delivered the message and we moved on. And what was interesting was it actually landed for him. And I didn't know I was even reading him. So intentionally, not normally. My grandparents will come in and they'll want me to tell my mom things or my aunt things. And so it's a little more, yes, in that regard, but as far as sitting down, tuning in, doing a full reading, rarely. But I also don't have a lot of relatives that talk to me either. So there's that. What about you? How do you feel about that?
I would reiterate that. I won't do any sort of reading for my family. I would rather send them somewhere else. And for me, it's because I want to prove the continuity of life. And if I already know all your dead people, right? I cannot be as genuine and authentic. Let's put it that way, right? Or you may perceive me as not being that way because I already know. My mother will ask me, well, why doesn't your father come and visit me? I'm like, well, because you say my father instead of your husband. Might be part of it. But yeah, I'm like, yes, my dad likes to spend time with me, but at the same time, like, yeah, he spends time with you, but you are very closed off to it. So it is not that he's not there, Mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I apologize. It's Tra. I do want to say this.
Her name's Tracy. It's Tracy. She's one of my students.
I knew this is how this was going to happen, Lorenda. I do want to tell you very, very quickly that there is a beautiful older lady that like scooched on up here. She has very long hair. It's very lovely. And what she kept showing me was like sitting on like a wooden porch with like the slats. It looks like it would have been like it's an older style home, but it's got like the front porch that's still made out of wood instead of how you would see like concrete nowadays. But she's like sitting on the steps and she's looking off into the distance. but she's got a bowl of green beans and she's just going through and she's just, she's snapping all these green beans, and it's such a habit at this point that she doesn't really have to pay attention to what she's doing. And instead she is really focused on what is coming up down the road. And so she wants me to tell you that it's okay to still be going through the routine, right? The things that you know that you're supposed to be doing, work, family, all of those things. But she really wants you to have that focus on the future. She says you keep putting it off, you keep putting it off, you keep not focusing on it. And so it's like that car keeps driving by and it's not coming up down the lane. And she's like, focus on the future, because you're not going to find what you truly want in this lifetime if you don't start focusing on the future.
That was for me?
No, that was for
Tracy.
Tracy.
Oh, I hope Tracy's in here still. Is she still in here?
I hope so too. But
oh, yep, she said thank you.
If nothing else, she can watch it later.
Oh, because she's one that was asking, like, so my mom wants me to do tarot on her. She's been hesitant. You know what? I have found, and thank you for sharing that message with her. I have found that it's easier for me to do tarot with my relatives because I can. Stop it. Sorry, I was like getting a notification. I can say, okay, here's the card. This is what it means. Here's the card. This is what it means. And here's the card in this position. This is what it means. And she will understand the messages without me having to tap. I just feel weird about like tapping into my mom. It's like a privacy issue. I'm like, I don't need to know my mom's life. Like I want to, but only what she wants to share. I'm not going to do all that. So yeah, you know what? You could read for her, Tracy, if she really wants you to. And it actually would be a good practice, because also challenge your guides to give you, if you are going to get information, to give you information that you don't know. That's the key, is like when I read for my mom, or even my friends in the tarot, I'll tell her, like, it can't be anything that I know about. So don't ask me if it's things that I know about. So I might give her advice, but I try not to interpret. I try to be a little more literal with it. Or I'll get information from spirit that makes sense to her, but I have no clue what's happening. So that's the key. Like, as I do this longer, I get a little more comfortable with it. But no, my mom's not coming to my house sitting down. I'm doing a reading for her.
I will double down on that and say that if spirit is telling you to say something in a certain way, or if that's how you're perceiving, say it in that way, because that is what's impactful. It's like if I try to change a word that spirit's giving me and they're like, stop it, just say the damn word. Say the word, because it might just be one phrase that you don't know about, or in a way that that person would have said it. It's crazy. And that can be that piece of evidence that they're like, oh my gosh.
Say what you see, hear, feel, and know. Like I say that, I preach that in my classes. Like, it's not your job to interpret it. Just say what you're getting. Say what you're getting. It's okay if it doesn't make any sense.
I won't swear, because sometimes they'll come in and they got a potty mouth, right? And they might have a lot of things. And so
I swear.
I will edit it slightly, and then I will say that's not exactly the word choices they had. And that person will understand and they will laugh, right? Because I'm like, I'm not swearing in here. They're a little bit more colorful in their language than I'm going to be.
Right. No, I do swear. I'm like, would you understand them saying that?
Don't do that on platform, Lorenda.
I will not do that. Listen, I know my audience. I know how to read a room. And I know that if I'm on platform, that's not going to go well. I will not be on platform ever again. But also I did turn in my schedule. So it'll be interesting to see who I end up, like when I'm going to be on platform.
I hope it's all the time. You can work all the times I'm not willing to. Linda asked, how does the nature art work? Like, how do you not damage things when you're doing it? So yes, good question. So we talked about with precipitation art that spirit will use anything, right? And so you don't have to sit here and like, right? You can, if it's like a tree, if it's something a little bit more dense, it's fine. But even on a tree, I'm just, first off, it might sound weird, but I do ask the tree's permission first. Like, hey, do you mind?
That's not weird. It's an energy exchange.
And it says, I would love to, just be gentle, right? And so I will gently, it's not about like really, really rubbing hard on anything. It's a very light process. And when it comes to like the beautiful flowers, it might literally just me holding it up to it and just asking for that energy to be placed on there, or even a light little tap on there. It's not about physically drawing with those different objects. So hopefully that helps. And if you want to do it, I highly recommend it. It's so much fun. Meditate first. You don't have to get a big one like this. You can get a smaller one, like a index card size one, but you're going to want one that's got the cardboard in it. So it's firm, right? It's not going to move around. And meditate with it and tell spirit what your intention is with it, right? I'm going to go outside, and I would really like for the earth elements and the nature to place an image on here for me. And then just go, and wherever you're inspired to walk, whatever you're inspired to use, you just gently rub it, or you just set it up next to it and ask for that energy to be placed in there. It's magic. It's all magic, I promise.
And that's what I love about this work. And I feel it's important, even when we get into, even as we're moving into the year number 9 year, even as we're moving into this turbulent energy, I think it's important to remember that, yes, we're doing important work, but also remember it's magical. Embrace and enjoy the magical part of it. And I mean that in a not understanding way, but a truly like, wow, we get to do this. We get to talk to spirit, and spirit talks right back to us. It feels like magic, and like doing spirit art where you have that physical thing to go, oh, wow, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
It does. It feels very magical. That's actually that might be my theme for 2025. Remember the magic.
With a K, not a C.
All right.
Magic with a K. How long did it take both to trust and say what you are getting?
It took me a couple of years, probably. And that was with Reverend Glenda, who's still lifts up, and you've taken stuff from her too. Like you've had her. She's one of your mentors.
I don't work with Reverend Glenda.
Okay.
I've taken a couple of classes, regular classes from her. My gosh, some of them were mind altering and fantastic. Yes, we all have, especially if you're ordained, you choose somebody. Pick me. Some of my students, I can't wait till y'all get ordained because I want to be that person for you. Just saying. Anyways, I digress. How long did it take? So everybody's different. Everybody's going to be different on how long it takes, because it is trust is hard for a lot of us. Mm-hmm. A lot of us have had bridges burned, and it's no different with trusting spirit and trusting yourself. So the first step that I would always say is get to know your guides. Even if it's just one of them, right? Like make them your bestie. Because once you trust them, you know that they aren't going to allow some random Joe spirit to come into your space that's going to trigger you or make you feel uncomfortable. And so then it becomes easier, right? And so my people know that I have hard limits with anybody who is ever an abuser of any way, shape, or form. They cannot come through a reading with me. Like it's not gonna, I don't even care if it's to say I'm sorry. They're not allowed, right? Like my joy guide, Purple Wren, she's got a little rope, and she's like, nope, you're not on the list. Thank you. And so she's not going to let anybody come through.
I talk about that. My joy guide is like, she's like, all right, listen, no, not you. You're not invited to this party. Get out of here. Okay, you're next. Are you ready? Do you have the right things to say? Get your act together. Okay, I feel like she's like
with the little clipboard, the whole thing, just checking off the list. And
stage manager. She's my stage manager.
Absolutely. And so it's important to have that relationship with them. Mm-hmm. And then that takes away a lot of the fear, because trust and fear go so hand in hand. And it's our own mental fear of, I don't want to say the wrong thing, or, oh, I really want this to be right. Why? Because you want it to be impactful and you want it to be meaningful. And so it is that whole, don't hold on too tight to it. In fact, Linda, this apparently is something that you have you've struggled with not Linda. Yes, that you've struggled with for a hot minute, and it's not just in this aspect of life, but like trust has been something where when you were younger, you would give it and then it would get broken, and then you would try to give it again and it would get broken. And so this has been an ongoing like stepping stone for you. This is one of your challenges in this lifetime. So hold on.
Hang on, Yessie.
Hold on. So there's an older gentleman that is showing this to me, and he shows like watching you from a young age and watching you do this. And he says it's kind of like when you would stumble and you would like scrape your knee. He's like showing you on like roller skates, and he's like, sometimes you would remember to put the elbow and the knee pads on, and sometimes you wouldn't. You would just go out and have fun. And he says, have fun with it. Have fun with it, and don't worry about the falling.
Mhm.
It's when you would take that time and really put on like all of the protective gear, it's because you had the fear of falling. And he says, so forget it, like set it all aside, and just enjoy the ride, because when you find the joy in it, it's easier to just say what you're getting, to say what you're feeling, to say what you're seeing. And all of those are correct, right? There, we get it through all of our different senses. He's actually a lot of fun. I really like him. He's he's got a like, he's got almost a stern personality, but at the same time could like have fun and laugh and just enjoy at this. It's like he wore several different hats in his life, and so he had to remember like what situation he was in. He wasn't always strict. Sometimes he was like the life of the party. He does show me that he did like to have a little bit of a beverage in the evenings. I want to say it could have been a beer to take the edge off at the end of the day, because he was a hard worker, but he just really wants you to go forward and just have so much fun with it and not have so much fear sitting with it. And so how do we do that? We just keep practicing, just keep doing. And if you sound like a fool, you sound like a fool. But I tell you what, every time where I have felt like I sound like an idiot, it has been the most important message that person has received.
Yeah. Because it's not meant for us to understand or to put in the context of our own life necessarily. But you're right. Like you just say what you see, hear, feel, and know is coming through. And the more you honor that, and the more you sell, for me, I will never forget the day that I said, all right, fine, game on. I trust you. I'm going to say whatever you put in my head. So remember that. I'm going to say whatever comes into my head. And I was on a TikTok live. And that day I went from like, I would have like anywhere from, I don't know, 50 to 200 people in my live on a regular basis. I had 2,000 people in the live that day. It was bizarre. And I gave an amazing reading to another medium that I'd never heard, ever met before. Everyone else in the room seemed to know him. And he and I actually ended up being friends, and I ended up taking one of his classes, but it was crazy because I trusted spirit, and the stuff that came through didn't make sense to me, but I just said what was coming in, and everything made sense to him. Like even down to what he was watching on TV in that moment, to prove that spirit was there and watching what was going on. So I never looked back after that day, but it had been kind of baby steps, and I don't know. I was still very careful up until that moment, and I'd been in development for almost 3 years. I was still confident at that point, but I was trying too hard, you know.
And I said an hour or so ago that when you start doing the mediumship work, you have to make that contract and say, okay, yes, I want to do this. It's the same thing with trusting and really stepping into it, is that you have to say, okay, I trust you. I do. I'm agreeing, right? You just can't take it back once you say it. You're like, okay, I get it. I agree. We're going to do this. And it's like taking yourself out of the equation, part of yourself out of the equation, if you will. Can you scroll through? Is there somebody named Jessica that is on here?
Yes, he is Jessica is like Jesse. I don't know. Is there a Jesse in either one of the chats? Is there a Jesse? One of my students is named Jesse, but she's sleeping right now because she works nights. Let's see. Let me look. Paging Jesse. Paging Jessica. My daughter's name is Jessica.
Okay, well, I'll give you a message for her afterwards.
Well, that's the one that doesn't talk to me, so.
It might still be a very important message.
Okay.
Did you squish me down, lady?
I'm not squishing you. I'm just thinking it's not for me. I'm looking to see if anybody I don't think I have any Jessicas in my TikTok chat. Also, friends, like, you need to tap on the screen or go over and hang out on YouTube. Let's see. Who do we have here? I want
to talk to Jenny. Jenny George. Is she still on?
Oh yeah, Jenny George. Butterfly Jen. Jenny.
Oh, I like that. Butterfly Jen.
Yeah. All right. Well, go back over to the tube of you if you want to.
You don't have to see me. You can just listen to my voice.
Or
It
just
doesn't
listen.
matter. So Jenny, there's been a younger gentleman, and when I say younger, I want to put him in like his 20s. Like I don't want to go older than 20s. That has stepped in here. He has really light hair that he shows me that when he was younger, he would have had like bleach blonde hair, and then it slowly started getting darker into kind of that sandy color. He is on the taller side. He's very slender, like not the like awkward slender. Let's put it that way. He's not like super muscular. He's like an awkward slender individual. He really gives me this energy of like a very brotherly energy that comes forward with him. So whether that is that he just looked out for you and acted as a brother, or if this was your actual brother, but he's all smiles right now. He is like all smiles for you, and he wanted me very specifically to tell you good job, to tell you that the hard work is paying off, and you're finally seeing that it's paying off, and that he says that just like when you were little, anything that stands in your way, it's literally just standing in your way, and you can jump over it, you can go around it, you can go under it, you can go through it. It's like that song that you did when as a camper, and just to keep moving in that direction, because he shows me that there's been a shift with work. There's been a shift like job wise. And he says, don't be worried about it. Don't be worried about any of those things. The money is there. Everything that you need is there. Just keep doing the things that you are enjoying and that are bringing you that comfort that you have been looking for. And then as the moment I said comfort, there's an older woman that steps forward. She puts a shawl around you. She hands you a mug of hot cocoa with like all of the marshmallows. It's almost like heaping full of marshmallows. And she says, but don't forget that it's going to get cold out and that you have to keep yourself warm. She says that you have problems with your fingers getting too cold. And so she's just reminding you to have something warm to put your hands around.
Aw. So Jen said, name possible. Definitely dude, 100%. Were you impressed with the name at all? Or was it
I was not. So my people, they don't like to throw names. Here's what happens. So development, when we're doing development, we're all trying to learn to get all of those different clairs, right? We all want all of the different ways and all of the different things. So when I get names now, they will throw a name at me and then they don't give me anything else. And so I'm like, until we can figure out how to balance the name and the evidence, you're not giving me any more names.
That's funny. That's funny. Remember that time I was like, I was on platform like, I couldn't get names. And the next day I was like, oh, I have all the names today.
Yeah.
Fun game spirit.
Yeah. But see, for me, a name's not enough. It just isn't. Like I need more. And so that's what we're actively working on right now, is that they cannot just throw a name at me.
Right. Well, and sometimes what I've learned is sometimes the names don't matter. It's like it's just it's the evidence, it's the other stuff. And she's asking it, she says, with work glasses. I think how Meg gets the information is like she gets impressed upon things and then she'll say what everything that is she's feeling.
Yes, that is correct.
So yeah, everything you got is probably what she was impressed with. So
for like a longer session, there would be a lot more information.
That's true. That's true. But like for platform, and that's very true. That is very true. So for like platform work in this kind of setting, we get those quick, like they come in, we do. And then what people don't understand too is like with platform work, you're on a timer.
Quite literally,
you're on a timer, and you are expected to give 8 to 10 messages in what, 10 minutes time, 15 minutes
10 to 15,
time,
yeah,
10, 15, yeah. So you get you learn to ask for the meat of it, the most important. Oh, she said thank you very much. By the way, I've met Jen; she's awesome. I met her in Portland, but we'll get what is important in that moment. Sometimes we'll get those weird little details. Sometimes we don't. But yeah, with platform work, it's different. Um, we don't always get those little nuanced things unless it's important to that person in that moment. Oh, there she is. She's saying, yes, thank you so very much. She's very nice. I like her. And hi, Rose. Oh, Kimberly asked, what do you think about taking breaks from development?
I think that it is important to listen to yourself, to listen to your gut feelings, because if you if life is happening, right,
Mhm.
life is happening. For example, when my dad passed, literally a week prior, I was laid off from my job, right, and so I took a break because there are things that we have to deal with, and you are not going to progress, and you are not going to grow your abilities if you have a lot of stress and pressure placed on you in the moment. So does that mean that you're taking a year off? No. But does that mean that you're maybe taking a couple months away to go do the things that you need to? 100%. And then you come back refreshed and renewed. All of my kids, my students, they all know you come when you can. If you can't come, I'm not going to be mad at you, right? You're not going to miss out. Yes, you're going to miss out on spending quality time with, your fellow students and with me, but it's important to remember that we are first physical,
Mhm.
and then we are spirit. And so physical life can take priority. You also don't want to burn yourself out, which can happen. That is something that if you ever come to Camp Chesterfield, if you ever start to serve here, you will learn real quick that they are very good at like taking a whole lot of energy from you. And when I say that, it's not it's not fully in a negative way, but if you, for what Lorenda was saying, if you give availability and you're like, I'm open whenever you want to schedule me, you might get scheduled every weekend. Right? It's like, wait a minute, that's not actually what I meant. Because you also have other things that you need to do, right? Or I also teach, right? I teach privately and I teach for camp. And so if I just say I'm available all of these times, it then leads to not having time for personal development or
Right.
for taking care of your family.
Right.
So yes, I think that taking a break is perfectly valid when you need to.
And just remembering, like, we are here to have a human experience. Now, I still fully believe this is how I explain to my students. You can get to know your guides and never be a medium. Never do it, because you know what? You came here with a team. We're like a big giant class project. They're learning from us, we're learning from them. And why not empower yourself to have a team so you can be the best version of a human that you can be here? So you can see things clearly. So you can see the obstacle. We're not going to float and skate through life without issues, right?
Oh, would that be nice?
Oh, no, really? I don't know. I feel like we'd just be bored. I feel like you and I would be bored. We'd be like, so where's the problems?
What are you talking about? We would just travel.
Oh,
That would
that's
not be
true.
boring.
That is true. That is true. I'd be like, yeah, that's true. I'd be like, okay, I've experienced my things now. But I do feel like when whether you're in development to do mediumship or even just in development to stay connected to your guides, it's good because we can learn how to incorporate that into everyday life. Maybe I need to offer well, that's not true. That's what my class, like the class I teach twice a month, is called All Level Spiritual Development. And it's not about being a medium. It's not about being a professional. We have people in there who are practicing mediums. And we also have people who are like, I don't know, I feel like I just know things. And so how do you learn how to be the best version of a human you can be? So maybe you take some of those tools that you've already learned in development and you take a break from classes. That's fine. And I'm saying that because Kim's takes some of my classes. So it's okay to take a break from development and learn how to integrate what you already know.
Mhm.
That's the other thing. Even if you're doing healing work, if you go to a doctor, okay, they give you medication, you're not going to be cured the next day. It takes integration time. It takes a while for you to see the results. And it's the same. It's the same with mediumship development or any kind of development. And you have to listen to your body. You need to listen to your mind, body, and spirit. And if you got stuff going on in human version of you that needs addressed, that should be first.
And to Michelle's point in the chat here, that the moment that it's no longer fun and it becomes a job, don't do it.
No.
On the same token, the moment it becomes about money and not helping people, I'm going to give you the same answer.
Yes.
The moment that we put ego in front of helping others is the moment that spirit goes, bye, we're going to step away for a little bit. You need to figure out your own life. And I mentioned earlier how I have a guide that works with me for spirit art. It doesn't matter if you're a medium or not. The guides that are with you, they are helping you progress. They are here to make sure that you make it and you fulfill the contract that you decided that you were going to sign up for in this experience. And so it's not necessarily about, oh, cool, so we all have a joy guide, but like I don't do mediumship work, so what does mine do? Figure it out. They all have something that they enjoy doing with you. I have a protector. His name is Red Raven, and he loves to go paddleboard with me. Anytime I'm near water or on water, him and I, like that's what we do together. So they all have something they really enjoy. And so even if you don't want to do mediumship, figure out what they like to do. And then when you do those things, because it's going to resonate with what you already do, invite them to go with you. Yeah. Right? Take that moment and be like, hey, because I tell you what, he gets me a great parking spot every time when we go paddleboard.
They do that
because he wants to, and he's like, "Well, I don't want to have to park a mile away and walk like
right
on the water." So
I'll even ask my guides, "Okay, what are we doing today? And what am I learning from this? And what are you learning from this? Or what's in it for you? You know, hey Nick, because they are also experiencing through us." It's my class. Have you heard me talk about this? It's the classroom project idea that one time Spirit impressed me. I always think it's my idea, never my idea, but Spirit impressed me with the idea to ask when we were in meditation. We were in class and I said, ask what you're going to be learning today. What is it they want you to focus on? And then ask what they're learning from you today. And the answers were mind blowing. And we all came out, they were like, wow, that came out of nowhere. That was interesting. Okay. So I've learned to ask that even through that. All right. So I'm going to go to do this today. What are you getting out of it? What's in it for you? And what do you want to get out of today?
I'm not asking those questions because I'm already getting smart ass answers right now as they're like, well, we're going to tell you what we're learning today. I'm like, stop it.
Stop it. But I was shown that it's like we all have our master teacher in the beginning that says, all right, here's your assignment. This is what you have to learn. Who's going in? And somebody draws, and I drew the short straw. I had to come in. I'm the human, and we are a class project. And everybody has a different job. And everyone's got different things that they have to learn. Sometimes they're learning how to be a spirit guide, or maybe they're just learning maybe they have not incarnated and they're learning human things because they're going to be coming in. So it's just the things that they've shown me have been really wild. That just never occurred to me in my brain. But I love that idea that it's an equal energy exchange. It's not just they're just here for me, to worship me, to help me all the time. It's like, cool, how can I help you learn today? And it really does change things, because then it takes it away from my guides are here to help me be a medium. That's not what it's about. They're here because we're a team. We're literally a team for a bigger purpose.
That's right.
And sometimes, yes, my guides will pop off with like their smart aleck things. I'm like, listen.
Probably shouldn't have done that. We told you not to. How did that work out for you? It worked great. Thank you so much. It was a learning lesson.
Yeah. Every once in a while, I'll say something like, oh, it just like popped into my head, or like, oh, I had this thought, and I'll hear them laugh and go, that's funny. That's cute how you thought that was your thought. Like, so what are you trying to say? You're trying to say that I'm not the genius that I think I am?
You are.
Right. Yeah. And then they're like, yeah, you go right ahead. You believe that. So, but we also have the choice to either take that information and make the best of it, or we can just go, oh, I don't know. So, well, we are at noon. That was like, I know we didn't really do any readings, but man, I feel like we answered a lot of really great questions. And
a couple of you did. You got little ones.
Yeah, a couple different good little readings. Oh, hi, Micah. So make sure and tell everybody how they can find you for a reading, because now this is something I really want to reiterate. Not every medium is on social media. And I will say, Camp Chesterfield people, you're not big in social media at all in any way, shape, or form. You don't need to be, because you're at Camp Chesterfield. People come find you. You guys are very much, like, there's the website for Camp Chesterfield, and you have your practice. You got a thriving practice. But not everybody's on TikTok doing their TikTok thing. Not everybody's on YouTube doing stuff. Not everybody does this kind of thing. I'm a Leo. I'm out there. It's what I do. This is how I'm gonna, as I retire from dance, this is how I fulfill my time of performing. But how can people find you if they want to get a private reading from you, or take your classes? How can they find you, Reverend Meg?
Yeah. So, no, I am not. I am on social media. I just am not a Lorenda Carr medium on social media yet. I'll put it that yet on there. It's in the process. But in all honesty, if you reach out to me through my email address, I do in-person as well as online readings, as well as classes. I teach in both of those ways as well. I have, can I put in the chat?
Yeah, you should be able to. It says, do you have a thing where you just post comment?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, we see where you see the comments, look down at the bottom. If not, I can type whatever you need me to.
So the best email address to get me, I go by Uniquely Meg. Why? Because I am a unique little creature in this world. There's nobody else like me. So uniquelymeg.medium at Gmail is the best way to get a hold of me. I'm on Facebook just under Meg Wolsiffer. You are more than welcome to come and find me there as well. And eventually I will have all the other things set up, but yep, Uniquely Meg is me.
Did I spell that right? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That is correct.
Notice how I asked that after I hit send.
After she already hit send, right?
Yeah.
But yes, or if you go, if you're interested in Camp Chesterfield and you go on the website, you can see all of the mediums that are here on the website and how to get a hold of us as well. So
yeah, it's not that hard to track you all down, I promise.
It's really not. I feel like if you Google my name, it comes up in a lot of places as well.
Right.
Good and bad. Good and bad.
There's also this belief that, especially people who do TikTok, that if you can't vet your mediums by watching them do readings, that's not true. Meg is probably one of the best mediums I've ever been to. I continue to go to her, and she doesn't wear a crown on TikTok. So, I mean, you could.
I almost put my crown on for you. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go with Laura. I should put.
I know. Have you seen my latest one? Have you seen my?
You have too many, so I don't know.
It's this one. I've seen this one.
Oh wow!
It's my lioness, my Leo sun crown.
So I just learned that I'm a Leo rising, so maybe that's why we get along.
Well, that could be why it makes sense. That makes sense for you. So, all right. Well, thank you for coming on. And I feel like we got a lot of bases covered, and I just adore you anyway. And I'm always happy to spend time with you. And I don't know, Michelle and I are talking tomorrow about brainstorming those ideas to go on tour.
Love it.
So, and you and a few others are in that conversation. So I'm pretty excited. So
be fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you everybody for joining. It was a great conversation. It really was.
It was good. It was good. I hope y'all learned something. And if nothing else, if you're interested, check out classes, again, you can learn how to be spiritual. You can learn how to do these things and never be a medium if you don't want to be, or you can be. I think we are all wired for it. So, all right, everybody, love and light to every one of you. And thank you again, Meg. And we will all see you soon.
All right.
Thank you.